All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Morbid Symptoms. I'm just going to click this off here. Oh, let's see. I need to add us. Hi there. Nassim, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Oh, there you go. So that's two. That's one out of two. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Morbid Symptoms. I'm your host, Tara Van Dyke, and I'm happy to have to be joined this evening or this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are, with Nassim. And Nassim is being a bit cloak and dagger. His video isn't working, so he's just here in voice only.
Yeah, I kind of ruined things.
No, it's all right. It's all right. At least I have a nice avatar I can look at. You know, as long as I have something I can look at, I don't feel like I'm participating in some sort of hostage video. Let's see. So if you could tell our viewers a bit about yourself, I'm going to turn off the scroll at the bottom since we have started.
So, a longtime member of the left, communist supporter. What would you like to know? Former member of the GC, and also one of the people who wrote up a lot of the ideology for the super straight bullshit that happened in 2021.
You said super straight bullshit. What I'm not familiar with that.
Remember when COVID happened? There was like this real pushback against trans with the
yeah,
called super straight, and it was crushed within like I'd say about 2 months. Yeah, I sat down and I wrote up a lot of that stuff's ideology just so the kids had some primer to throw at the trannies.
The trannies. Okay. So you're old school. You were a TERF before TERF was a thing.
Yes. I could never agree with that sort of nonsense because nothing of it makes sense, because it's like one thing to sit there and say, all right, you should just let these people be. Okay, that's fine. Who cares about that? Mm-hmm. But this is about like sitting there saying, oh, well, a man says he's a woman, therefore everyone must agree and treat him exactly like a woman. Well, that causes a lot of problems. A lot of problems.
Yeah. Well, we will have to have you back on to talk about that, because we're gonna that in itself is a huge thing in terms of, and also making the differentiation between what gets lumped together under the left when there's a lot of things that are quite contradictory. For example, those of us who not only don't pretend that men can be women and women can be men, and there's trans kids and both and all the above, but that are aware of how dangerous it is as a precedence to set. However, that is for another time. We have two stories or events that we want to deal with today. And one is obviously at the root of it is a very tragic, I don't even know what word to call it. The story of I want to say Iryna, but her name's not Iryna. And Anira, I don't know. Oh dear. Anyway, the the lady who was the young woman who was killed on a metro line in Charlotte a few days ago. Mm-hmm. Has stuck off a firestorm again about race, law and order, moralism. It's an identity politics and moralizing wokeism firestorm, and we're going to talk about that. And then we also are going to talk about the Qatar. Israel bombed Qatar the other day in order to take out. To assassinate some Hamas officials that were there to under the pretense of negotiating this never-ending negotiation over a ceasefire. And I'm calling that the Imperial Triangle. So the United States, Israel, and the Gulf states. So since you are our guest, Nassim, which one would you want to start off first with?
Let's talk about, because we also have like the breaking with Charlie Kirk getting shot. I'm not
aware of that. Tell us what you know.
I just found out about it. I just saw a video of him giving a talk, and then he got shot, and I just saw, seems to be that his perpetrator, the person who shot him, is a old white guy. So that's going to be interesting.
Well, that's a blessing in disguise then.
Yeah, in a way, yes, because like if it was a black man who shot a man, that would be even worse. Like there is a want in this country from both the left and the right, the liberals and whatnot, to get like this quasi race war going on. You know what I mean? Because if you look at it, it's like the end result of these people. Let's take and focus all on grievances, just nothing on but grievances. And at the same time, we're going to let we're going to loosen the criminal justice system. And what's the right going to do? The right's going to ignore the violence of, white criminals killing white people. They're going to ignore that. They're going to center on the interracial. So they can say, hey, look, this. And so you get this constant feeding off of each other while nothing is ever done. Do you know what I'm saying? Nothing is going, like no one's actually advocating for anything to stop this, other than say get harder, get more police funding, and then crack down on black community. Well, that's not going to change anything. They know that. It's all a game to cause more problems within the society. Everything is basically the Southern strategy over and over and over again.
And can you say a bit about the Southern strategy for those of us who aren't familiar with it, or maybe need a bit of a refresher?
So Southern strategy came up with the Republicans. It was the way they wanted to deal with the New Deal. They understood that there was they were attacking the American people's unity by arguing you have your own interests. You have your own interests, and you break down regional by regional and state local by local, that you don't have the same interests as other Americans. So you play on a certain form of identity, and then what you find is as you expand on this identity, you have to further atomize and get these people to constantly be at each other's throats. I mean, think about this. As when the anti-racism campaign started in like 2014, you had you could see by 2016 the race relations were starting to decline. And so you have this constant you have this constant pressure from one side, the liberals, and then the other side, the right, that completely feeds into one another. The left wants to portray you as victims of the state, and they want to portray the state as like something that you can't really address. You just have to bring it down, burn, like quote unquote, as the people want, defund it, burn it down in its own way. But then there's no reform of it, no real issue. Of course, we know there's no reforms here, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. And so, just for people who aren't aware, because this was a thing that happened in the United States in Charlotte, and I'll just go through what we know for sure. I mean, it seems. I mean, in terms of the perpetrator, the victim, and the perpetrator. I mean, you can't get more black and white than this. But there was a young woman, Iryna, I guess it's Iryna Zarutska, who was a refugee, a Ukrainian refugee who I don't know how long her family had been in the States, a couple of years, I imagine. And she was stabbed to death on August 27th, 2025 on a Charlotte Lynx Blue Line train, so a train in Charlotte. DeCarlos Brown Jr. was arrested at the scene and charged with first-degree murder. On September 9th, which was, I guess it would be yesterday, the Trump administration got involved, and I have that picture, I think, on our thumbnail here of, I think she's the press secretary, and they got involved. So they filed failed charges, filed an act causing, I guess they had a federal charge because it was on a mass transit system, so they could pull some sort of jurisdiction there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we know for sure has happened, and what's caused a bit of a firestorm, at least in terms of racism and wokeism and moralism, is that one thing is in terms of the discourse that's developing around this, is that if they're saying this got like hardly any media coverage from the quote unquote mainstream media, and that it would have gotten like pushed to the side if it wasn't for, the right wing or alternative media or X or whatever, saying, "Hey, what's going on here? Look at this crazy story," and saying they're quite certain that if the races had been, if it had been a black woman and a white man, or a white man and a black man with the victim and victimizer switched around, that we'd have riots again. It'd be a George Floyd at 2.0. And I think, what do you think? I think they probably have a point about that. What say you?
Well, I mean, you can
I'm
tell.
not saying this, go ahead.
In the United States, we really don't care about any crime but the interracial crime. It seems, because like it is unfortunate. This is horrible. This shouldn't happen. There's no argument here that this should not happen. The question should be, why was this person allowed, out of jail, and has so many times, this guy's been arrested for, violence, and yet he's posted on bail and allowed to, go where he wants with a knife. So, but at the same time, you have another attack. I posted on my Twitter. You have one of this guy beating this girl and ends up shooting her dead on the streets of Philly. Okay. And what makes the national news? Okay. What makes the national news is what's going to be divisive and get everyone angry. Again, everything's selected here. Because, I mean, both of them are gruesome, and both of them should definitely cause Americans to go, well, why is our system going so crazy? But instead, what we have is we constantly have the media focusing on, in this case, they didn't want to focus on her because that makes all these liberals look bad every time.
Yeah.
Yes, because they want you to think that every person that goes into the prison is some form of ultra victim of circumstance. That's the moralism, that all the people who go to prison, they had hard lives. Don't you see? It's not them, it's their hard life. Well, you can only push that stuff if you're somebody who's like some upper class or middle class person who's never like lived outside of your own like bubble, because it just flies in the face. It really plays off the idea that people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds are like this ignorant bunch of rubes that don't understand anything of the world. They're just animals that can't understand right from wrong.
Well, and also the causation. I mean, and this happens on both the why I was thinking about what to label or title our segment here, and I was thinking the collapse of bourgeois politics, because it's kind of just degraded to this, live by racialism, die by racialism, identity politics, who's bad, who, just this kind of scapegoating and enjoying just, throwing dispersions on the other side to score points and whatnot. And of course, you can't, I mean, very few people, I would imagine, can see anything like this and not think, Jesus, because it's not just the fact that, it's just totally random that you see this young woman get on the thing, she just sits there, and he just seems to like he just decided to put in a piece of gum or something, stabs her, leaves, and then the people around her are just like not doing anything. Yeah.
And
I don't know. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's rather jarring to people, but like, back in the 90s, it used to be a normal thing in New York City where if somebody got attacked, killed, or whatnot, people would just walk over their body. People wouldn't get involved. So I mean, you have a society that's largely, kind of, if somebody gets attacked or hurt, I ain't gonna do anything. The only in the video that I talked about, the one where the black girl was killed, this guy was beating her. The only person that tried to stop was this other woman who ran up and was, trying to pull him off of her and stop the whole fight. And he just threw her off, and finally he shot. And
and I want to make the thing that it's always, I think that we tend to want to cast ourselves in the heroic light. Like if I was in that situation, and of course, unless you're in a situation like that, you really don't know what you would do.
Always remember,
I mean, it looks bad, but it's just that I think that's also part of it. Just the kind of this And again, I agree with you that it's a mistake to zero in on the race part of it, because both sides of the bourgeois politics, left to right, want to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, remember something when it's like in the 90s or 80s, the Polytechnic massacre up in Canada, where a guy walked into a room, told all the men to get out, and then killed all the women in the room. People can talk about the heroicness and whatnot, but it's rare in America or in any Western state you see people standing up for the victim. Most people just go walking on. You really see in like really third world countries where people go, oh my god, there's somebody dying, everyone rush and help. This is a very atomized society. I forgot what I was gonna say, man.
Well, I'll before, because I want to get to your take on it, because I want to make sure we spend some time talking about not just the woke, the wokeism part of it, or the moralism, but also the lumpenism, the lumpen proletariat, which is and maybe the fascination, or maybe we have a left, and this is just a theory or observation, that you have what goes under the left these days is kind of, you have the hierarchy of the PMC on top, and then the lumpens on the bottom that they get to, I don't know, care about and kind of bow before, kind of freaks to the front type of stuff. And then you have maybe what I think you would probably want to plug and associate yourself with, which was kind of a Marxist, quite more disciplined left, that really doesn't have any toleration for I guess being soft on crime, so to speak, or making all kinds of your first take isn't going to be, what we need to do to get to about crime and social malaise and all this stuff. We need to abolish the police, and and kind of just to focus on that part. Not that I want to say that you're that necessarily pro cop, but maybe you could talk a bit about that, because usually the kind of offhanded comment of a kind of a Marxist critique of the state, especially when it's the law, the coercive part, is that the cops work for the bourgeoisie. Yeah, they're there to protect bourgeois property, and so anything we can do to demoralize or demean or decrease the police presence is by definition a class win.
It goes on.
Anything more? Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, yeah, there's a lot to say about that, because it's only a class win for the bourgeois, because they're the ones that are not going to suffer from its terrorism. Because you look at the people in the upper and the upper class and the middle to upper middle class, they've got safer areas. They're naturally going to keep the police in their areas. When you sit there and you watch the defund, it's not like, oh, okay, we defund the police and we're just letting, people rampage across the streets. They're rampaging, and they're generally rampaging in the communities that are most vulnerable to that. Right? So you're taking away police, and you're letting the lumpen proles of Black society and white society basically terrorize the poor of that society, in the argument that you're protecting these people. Okay, it makes sense though, because you've got to think from the bourgeois point of view. This is a textbook example of raging the masses so that they'll demand crackdowns. Because you look at if you look at the rise of Italian fascism, right? They rose to power based on saying, hey, there's no order here. The state can't protect the population. We can. And that's something that the left, which is largely a bunch of lumpens anyway, lumpens and bourgeois children, they literally, get off on this stuff. There's no way of putting it. They enjoy this. Okay.
I want very quickly. I want to just go through. I just randomly, well, not too random. I went and saw. I wanted to get a flavor for how this was being presented or capitalized on or weaponized, the discourse. I want to go through that a bit, and then I want to circle back to what you just said by way of I clipped your comment about this as well. Then I get you to elaborate a bit more on what you just said. So let's see. I hope I don't have anything. I don't have anything too gruesome, because if people want to go look at the video, they can. So here's something this is how the New York Times decided to go with this. A gruesome murder in North Carolina ignites a firestorm on the right. Security footage capturing the unprovoked stabbing in Charlotte became an accelerant for conservative arguments about the perceived failings of Democratic policies. You can't tell who the Democratic New York Times is for. And yeah, go ahead.
They're more interested. See, this is going to actually enrage people more and more. The Democrats, all these liberal institutions, are leaping to defend liberal policy failure. Mm-hmm. That's all they care about is to cover for the Democratic Party, which this is going to enrage people because one, you can sit there and say, look, they don't care about white lives. They don't care that a white woman died, and they get to, to throw in the face of the left. These people don't care about your safety when they sit there and talk to these.
Yeah, and I think it's so silly because I remember this. When was the first time I started seeing defund the police or abolish the police? I can't remember what it was.
Probably around 2012.
Yeah, and I remember asking people, because I was still bumping around academia then, and I remember asking people like, well, what are the neighborhoods who have the most crime, most violent, whether it be property crime or violent crime? Where are they on this? And often the people had no idea. Yeah. So the people who would be most directly affected by a reduced police presence or a drastically reduced presence, or a police that's like, you know what, you want to point the finger all at us. Well, we're just going to not call. We're going to drag our feet, all the ways that an institution or people can let you know that they're not too happy with their treatment or the characterization. It's not the people who are calling for this. And I'm not saying that nobody in these neighborhoods was, but far and away, people don't like crime.
Right.
They also don't like, racist police or corrupt police or police brutality, but they also don't like crime.
Well, see, Black America and Hispanic America and poor white America are really thrust into this position where instead of dealing with police issues, they're not going to get that. What they're going to get is an either or. Either you get increased policing where they can go after even the tiniest of things.
And militarization, they're getting all this kind of overstock or what do they call it? I can't remember the word anymore, but anyway, stuff that the military doesn't need, they just are putting that
right. And part of the problem has been, and this isn't talked about, is that the police go after what is easy to solve. Okay, they're going after things that you can easily, on a statistic, we can close this. It's like, why is the issue of rape always been like so easily dismissed? Because cops know that it's a harder thing to go after, so they drop it. They're like, oh, well, this is more resources. Hell with that. I won't get a promotion. Their whole things is based on metrics. So you have that issue. You have this. I mean, again, it's militarization or nothing. It's like that's the two. Like we were watching, in California? Like a man gets punched in the face, and he tells the cop, and the cop says, "Well, there's no property damage, so you've got to go through these hoops for us to actually arrest this dude." Well, you know what? If anyone can walk up and just punch you in the face, and the cop can't do anything, well, you're going to get a lot of people punched in the face. Okay.
Or you get a lot of people taking the law into their own hands. Yeah.
Exactly. Eventually,
That's and I get your point. We have to have an idea that it's not like we have, a total police state and, or like nothing and everything's fine because we have our restorative justice meetings and our talking circles and we work it out. And there's, that you can have that drastic of a reduction in crime without a huge political economic shift is also kind of a
but the big thing here is that it seems like the political will at the top doesn't really care. Either way, like you've got one side who just says, let's keep going, whatever our programs are going to be, people just have to take it. The other side says, well, we can use this to get more law and order and crack down hard. You're always going to have this group that's for social discipline, right? And the problem for Americans is they're not going to find any solution in the two parties. That is the end all. They're not going to find any solution of those two parties. They're not going to find any solution in any of the left or right dissident parts that are always filtering you back into the Democrat and Republican Party. So you have a quagmire here where you're just getting more violence, and more violence, and an angrier population. So the question is, when does the society pop?
Yeah. And speaking of more crap, you have this is the theme of live by race, making everything about race, die by that. I don't necessarily mean like literally, but in terms of your political legitimacy. So this lady is Jasmine Crockett. She's a Democratic House of Representatives from Texas. And she was on CNN, maybe that same panel with Van, is it Van Williams? Van
Jones.
Van Jones, God, yeah, who is of course the left, what we're told. And she's saying that 80% of most violent crimes in America are due to white supremacy. Now, of course, I would say I just want to say one or two things about this, and I'll flip it back to you, Nassim. Is that first of all, this is so stupid because but you can go and look at crime statistics, even if you can be called racist if you do so, and what you find, if you just look like who's committing what crimes, white people as a percentage of the population commit the fewest crimes. Now, in absolute terms, they commit more because they're more of the population. But if you look like what percentage of the population is committing these crimes, and if you look at black on white crime versus white on black crime, you see a lot of more black on white crime than white on black crime. Now, I don't find this particularly useful about reducing crime and improving communities, but the people who do, why do you think they just throw this stuff out there when it's so easy to disprove just on factual data?
Well, I mean, first they're just saying whatever they can for their little soundbite. That's first of all. They know that they're not going to get challenged on that program. But the second part is when you go to bring up the statistics, they will just bury the statistics and say, well, it's a white supremacist system anyway.
Yeah. Statistics are racist.
Yes, the statistics are racist. Exactly. And, it doesn't answer the problem because, like, for me, it's like, okay, why is Black America having this issue then? Well, I came from neighborhoods largely in Black America. I mean, I was born in Arkansas. I was raised in Richmond, and I was raised near Commerce Road, which is a very, very, very ethnically Black dominated area. And what do you see? You see no resources wanting to be spent in that area. You don't have anything like, you have basically people left to rot. The state doesn't do anything for them. That's the best way of putting it. The state doesn't do anything for them. And then you're expecting these people who you're not having any sort of resources poured into them. The only resources you have poured into Black America is to create Black bourgeois. That's it. You don't have anything meant to uplift. You actually see different. You see opposite. All of the offshoring and deindustrialization came at a massive expense of Black of America. Okay, And they basically, a lot of the poor population got sent into the service sector. What do you think is going to happen in a nation that prioritizes accumulation of capital? Basically, tells people find a way of getting money, and then you have a total relaxation of police in the area, all on the argument that you can't clean up the police because, well, that would just means they'll be predating on Black America. It's just it's a quagmire. That's all I can say on it. You can't fix this issue without fixing the problem of the government
economic
itself.
Relations.
Yes, it's literally season means of production. That's all you've got. That's all you have in this country because you're on a treadmill. When we sit here and talk about, I can sit here and talk about all these nifty ideas of fixing the police force, but the existing powers will never implement them. They don't care about them, and if you tried to get them implemented, they'll make sure they fail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's certain issues, and maybe this is one of them, that the political duopoly, such as it is incentivized not to resolve. So I can think of like the gun issue, abortion, and then this, the law and order, or this type of I'll just say law and order as a shorthand. And I remember thinking, I don't want to get too far off track, that the Supreme Court kind of put a monkey wrench in that when they overturned Roe versus Wade and put it back down to the states, because then now it's like, well, they don't get to fundraise on that, or they get to do it state by state. I don't know, but there's certain things that you can just tell after a while. It's like they're incentivized to keep this going, to never resolve it. Yeah. They get people upset. They get to raise money, and it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, why put out the fire if everyone's gonna, sit there and support you on the idea that one day you put it? Yeah, everyone's gonna fund you to say, "Will you one day put out the fire?" No,
it's like we're not solving the problem, but I get to really hate on certain people, and I get to, virtue signal, or I get to do all kinds of things. And that's across the spectrum. It's not just
we can see that literally it's just management strategy. Republican and Democrats, just management strategy. How are you going to manage the plebes, right? And the reason they punt these is because they need these issues to distract people from the class. Everything is about distracting from class, because these types of crimes and these types of situations, what do? It generates animosity amongst whites. For Black people, it's going to make it harder to, get people to see you're not dealing with an issue of race. You're actually dealing with an issue of class, And part of the unspoken rule of the democratic society is that it really is all against all. It atomizes everyone, but it also forces everyone into these niche identities where everyone should be in a way quasi-racist, because you got to think about it. Black America's political capital is all based on its numbers. Becoming a larger and larger populace increases its political power. And so, same with every ethnic group.
Are you saying we still have old school clientelist politics, patronage politics?
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely. I mean,
who's that guy in Georgia? Who was that old guy who helped Biden? What is that guy's name? Oh no, I can't remember. But anyway, there's certain ones that's kind of like they think the ones that can quote unquote deliver the Black vote or the Latino vote or
there's definitely
American vote or whatever.
Well, you can look and see there's definitely white liberals tend to act like they own non-white liberals. They act like there really is a racial dynamic where it's like the racial dynamic, or hierarchy of the liberal would be the LGBTQ first, trans at the top, and BIPOC is used as like the ultimate identity. Then it filters in, and it's all used against conservative whites to just make them angry. Because you guys look at DEI, for example, who got kicked out and who was getting out of that situation? White women.
Yeah.
All of this was about what groups? All of it was supposed to be about helping blacks and minorities and all that, but white women got the majority of the benefit. When you look at all of these social identity politics and all the stuff, the people getting everything out of it is the white liberal.
Well, a lot of it, I think that, but it's also that the kind of the professionals of all that. So if you have, so the DEI helped women and anybody that has a new bespoke gender identity, and a degree more. Yeah. So the idea that it was to uplift a whole racial group or a sex group was just kind of like, yeah, no, so you get a certain you get the creamy layer, yeah. And then you have the other people who are, I guess, hired to take care of their kids and their gardens and all that type of thing. But yeah,
because you can see like I'm sorry for using this. Affirmative action is a great example of this. Just to dovetail this. With affirmative action, it really insulates white elites from competition with Asian elites. And because Asians are whites' greatest competition in academia. And what affirmative action does is affirmative action literally makes it harder for Asians to get into the elite colleges. It squeezes them out and puts in racial groups that do not compete with the whites. So it insulates them. There is a form of, when you go up and you look at the policies generated for much of the much of the identity groups, it's not benefiting those groups. It is actually benefiting that white upper and white middle class. And it's funny because it's that class's political groups that all try to bury and all try to signal that they're the ones against the white working class, and they're the ones that the minorities must come to and help. That they help the that they'll help the minorities, and in this quid pro quo. And it's not that. It's not that at all. Everything is by class in here.
Well, and I know there was a chart that oh God, I can't remember. It might have been in Walter Ben Michaels or Adolph Reed Jr.'s book, but they have this thing because when they want to talk about they were wanting to push back at this idea about the wealth gap and the black wealth gap, and what they do is they compare. You can take like white families, black families, Latino families, and what you see is that as you go, is that for the first 80%, it's pretty equal across those groups, and then it just shoots right up. So what they use this graph to show is that you have an income, the wealth gap or the income gap is much more pronounced across class lines and race lines. So as you said, you have black bourgeois or uber rich that have really made out quite well. Not everyone can be a Beyonce or a Jay-Z or have, I don't know, not that's really, really rich. But you see this thing and it's like this huge curve, and it's that way with white families, and it's that way with blacks, and it's that black and with Latinos on down the line. And so what you quite see is that in any racial group in the United States, my guess this would be in other places, that you have a pronounced class division that gets obscured by this talk of racial wealth gaps.
The whole racial wealth gap is the whole racial wealth gap is literally tricking people into thinking we're going to help everyone, but it's all, when you look at it, nothing more about creating bourgeois from the minorities and using them in almost like the new racial managers, because they got rid of the racial managers with segregation, with the end of segregation, right? But by the time we get back to around like 2012, 2013, we're already back to the liberals trying to bring back racial management. And you see that through representation. You see that by trying to get men and women to watch TV and be happy that you're seeing diverse millionaires now, actors. They're supposed to be happy about that. That doesn't change your life.
And when did it happen that I can't remember? I'm sure there's people who've studied this or they will at some point. But I remember for a brief period in time, the point was not to get too hung up on race. Yeah.
We had that
And
from the
that race is a
90s.
social construction and largely a political, mechanism. And, and we could point back when it first started being a sorting of people. And that the point was like, look, you're black, I'm white, you're this, you're that, whatever. And two being about to getting to I guess what I'm saying in a roundabout way is that there seems to have been a shift from wanting to de-essentialize race to wanting to re-essentialize it, and not so much on the right but on the left.
Yes, you're right. It happened around the time Bernie Sanders started to his first go around in the primaries. When by 2012 there was an argument on the left that race is a social construct. We need to get over that, right? But the minute Bernie Sanders started to make rumblings that he was going to run and what's the Bernie Bros and all that stuff, you had yes. What you had was in the left, the liberals' rhetoric changed, and the left's rhetoric changed with it. You had the rise of anti-racism, and you had the rise of all these leftist. Well, it comes along with like the 1619 project and all that, or 1719, whatever the hell it is.
1619, I think.
Yeah. You have all these. They elevate all these. Well, to put it bluntly, they elevate the black militants. This has been a strategy of the left that Christopher Lasch used to talk of. Strategy of liberals, I should say. They raise up the most extreme voices that are not actually arguing for like better liberation or better programs for black people, but arguing for like this form of victimhood. We're victims. All the things that happen to us.
We're going to acknowledge your culture. We're going to appreciate your culture.
Yes, and so you have this. And it's all. I mean, think what anti-racism.
Nice work. Jobs and healthcare and housing are better, but
Yeah, think what
your African roots. Yeah,
think what anti-racism was asking people to agree to. The whole of anti-racism was saying there's no such thing as a non-racist. Everyone's racist, and people who are anti-racist are recognizing that they're racist and they'll work against it. Okay. Well, what happens to the point where these people have already agreed that they're racist and start getting tired of that, of capitulating in their view?
Well, there's nothing I can do about it, and you're really bad because if you're, then, I don't want to presume, your skin tone or your ethnicity, but let's just say I know that I'm gonna assume you're a man, and so you have both going from it. So you can have two original sins of racism and sexism. You bad person.
Well, in terms of me, I think the Gaza genocide's really proven that Arab men are as valuable as cockroaches to the rest of the world. So, like, in terms of like,
now I have to clock that because I was wondering, and just to sorry, because I was just basing this on your name. And so when you said that you're having camera problems, I was like, oh man, is this going to be my white face on the screen?
Well, kind of, yes, because I'm actually very light-skinned. It's I needed
a BIPOC man, I needed something.
You know what though? It's amazing. When you're the BIPOC, you stop being BIPOC the minute you disagree, and then you become a white supremacist.
Oh, there you go.
I've literally, like, I remember it was back in 2013. I had a big argument with this socialist over the rhetoric they're using about white people. Whereas, like, I said, I don't see the constructiveness of saying that all whites are racist, because that basically means that I'm conceding that the natural state of white people is to be racist, and that we're trying to make them not racist, which just means that I'm making it easier for fascists to argue, hey, we're all racist. Why are we pretending? And what was fighting against me? What was sitting there attacking me, calling me a white racist? White people. How did that make sense? And the one that was going after me, I'll never forget it. I went after him horribly. His name was Seraphim Jade. He was a tranny. And I kept on saying, I'm sorry if I'm saying things that make people angry, but I'm kind of like, about it. I'm old. I don't care anymore. But he was sitting there going off, and I said, listen, guy, you're white. For you to sit here and attack me, if all whites are racist, you're racist. So why should I listen to you?
Yeah. Go work on your racism.
Yeah, work on your racism. You got a BIPOC man telling you to shut up, and you're sitting there arguing and getting racist with him. You prove your own point. It's you who's racist. That's
so let's get through some more of this stuff. So Van Jones was saying this man was hurting, so he didn't want people to lose sight of the fact that there was 2 victims here. Or I'm not want to put words in his mouth, but and Mays is an account and said they see race, talking about Van Jones, they see racism everywhere except in the black guy who kills a white girl and then says afterwards, I got that white girl. And then just to be, and I have to throw in the Zionists in here because, I don't know who is better at making something about them, the Zionist or the transgender crowd. Or I guess the Zionist transgender person would be the one who would make
they're both the same to me. They're 100%. There's no difference.
This person, Wexler, said a lot of people on the right are outraged by the murder of Iryna Zarutska and are calling for her killer to get the death penalty. They should be. Now imagine 1,200 Irynas. Now, do you understand Israel?
Yeah, I do, because those Irynas are probably a bunch of Palestinian women that got bombed back in Protective Edge. They killed a whole bunch of everything about Israel is about forgetting what the Israelis do. We go and murder half your population. Think of us as benign.
Why do you make us do this to you? Yeah, but and they're so silly because it's the kind of accusation. And I also thought what you just said is that, well, actually, if you want to use this analogy, the Irynas are Palestinians, and the guy who just got up and started stabbing her and walked off nonchalantly would be the IDF or the settlers or something.
Yeah.
It's because 12. This is a reference to October 7th, and we don't know. We'll never know how many people were killed by the IDF versus Hamas, but we know that a large number of Israelis were killed by the IDF, and we know they hog wild what they did before then. So it's kind of fun. If you want to use this analogy, Ms. Wexler, you may want to give it a little think. But
I think what I think is funny is that we know, because the Israelis have already talked about it, that much of that number was killed by the Israelis. I'm going to be rather callous on this because I don't really care about these people. Most of those people, were reservists, so they were military. So not a single one do I feel sorry for. These are not innocent people. They knew what they're doing. They're sitting there having a rave at the gates of Gaza.
Yeah, well, they just wanted to dance. No, this is the thing is, of course, we know, and I might have you back when I do my episode on the cult of the Israeli hostage, because that's a lot of cleaning goes on once they become a hostage. But yeah, you have the settlers, which are illegal, and those are just, and the settlers are part and partial of the kind of defense or occupation apparatus. You have mandatory conscription for most people. They switched, it used to be that there were certain Orthodox sects that didn't have to, but they've been trying to push them. So you have mandatory conscription, and then you have, and then you do that for a couple of years, and then you have people that stay in, but like you said, they have reservists. And then you have all the people who have to manage the occupation, the apartheid, and knowing, so it's it gets really difficult to make this case they were just, that some people wanted to do it was just a bad, out of nowhere,
Norman
all of a
Finkelstein.
sudden my neighbor went crazy.
Yeah, Norman Finkelstein said that with Israel, it's one of the big problems you have is that the majority of the population has participated in the occupation. So you have a hard time arguing innocence when it comes to Israel because it's a part of the population that has it's a part of the it's a country that has so much of its people being a part of this problem, and that it runs with the modern framing. It's like the citizen is innocent, the citizen is innocent. Well, in Israel, majority of the citizens have been a part of it. How do you rationalize that?
Well, you kind of know that going in, yeah. I mean, it's especially the people that take them up on the offer to like their birthright and to come and get a house. It's like, okay, yeah. Anyway, but I wanted to bring that up because they can really make it about them. Just a couple more things before we take a break and then come back with the Imperial Triangle. Sorry, I'm pushing all the wrong buttons now. Hi, Earl. I want to take this down. No, Nyla's here. Hello. Okay, so sorry. Yes. So this person came on. I don't know who this person is. It was on TikTok, and he wanted to explain his thoughts on DeCarlos Brown, who was the guy who just randomly got up and killed that young woman by stabbing her, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. He wanted to explain it by, this is the natural response to 400 plus years of oppression. Expect more just like him. And this is where I really think, like, are these people, either they're stupid or they're getting paid? Because it's like, a race war might sound nice to you, but if too many people take this seriously, especially people who have decided or of the mindset that separate is better, that white nationalists, or that that we need more racial segregation and separation, and they start saying stuff like this, I mean, it's stupid. But I mean, I think, do you have anything to say? Do you think these guys are just doing it for clicks, or?
No, I think a lot of people started believing this stuff after they started going through college, because you have a lot of the colleges teaching them decolonial theory, white supremacy, and all that. And then you have them being like, you need to show your outrage against white supremacy, whatever the white people get, they deserve. And it's like, well, that's really cool if you're like talking about in academia. This is going to stay in academia, and you're going to keep your like moralism there. But if you're going to, bring this attitude to the general population, you're gonna get, what you're seeing. You're gonna get this type of stuff where people think, well, back 200-300 years ago, or as this guy said, 400 years of oppression, we're allowed now to do whatever we want. Well, that's just going to be used by, white supremacists to say, yeah, they want to fight us.
Yeah, who was that guy? What's his name? Steve Adams, or the guy who wrote Dilbert? Remember that guy?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he decided to take I think what got him in the firestorm, or the one of the firestorms, was Scott Adams. Yeah, he took people saying stuff like that and said, white people should listen to this and act accordingly or move accordingly. And people are like, oh, this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. And okay, yeah, but it's just that, if you take people at their word, and this is out there, and it's also so hilarious. It's like, dude, yeah, there's some badass mofos and whatnot, but most of the guns and the power is still with the people you're saying, expect more of this to.
There's never been a time where the majority is going to get crushed by the minority, unless it's a foreign state that comes in and provides the military to do it. I think a lot of this is hemmed by the liberal nonsense of power dynamics. The liberal left think, oh, well, since you're powerless, you can say whatever you like. That's why, like, you can have rat femmes that sit there and talk about genociding men. We can talk like this because we're powerless. Well, what happens when somebody starts reading you and starts saying, well, this is what they think. And hey, guys, we're all getting poor, because back 2008, 2009, you had the whole like anti-Arab, thought and discussion became more virulent during 2008, 2009, because, well, everyone started getting poor. The recession hit, And what do people do? They immediately, when they get poor, start pointing fingers, wanting people to blame, and they want an easy excuse. That's the thing. People want easy culpability. This guy's the problem. And so you have this, you have what literally, it's like from 2012 to now, it's like all the left and liberals have been doing is turning America into the driest tinder for fascism. Because I was sitting there thinking about this, like Haas of Infrared of ACP now, he sat there talking about how, how they've pushed back against like much of the excesses, trying to take communism away from this concept that it is like this anti-family, heterosexuality politic. And the thing is though, if you don't have any pushback against that, that's all that they see, the sequences. They see it tied to politics that nobody wants to deal with at the expense of, the real issues. Social issues, cultural issues take forefront. You sit there and you build off this moralism where everyone must agree or you're bigots. What happens? People sit there and say, well, I'm poor. Why not be a bigot?
Yeah. So, and especially if the it used to be that there was a more of a, and there still is obviously, but this idea of focusing on, at least on the class focused left, that we have to be careful of these divisions, race, religion, etc., region, because they're all used to divide and conquer. Yeah, so we need to be careful of that, which does not mean there isn't issues or concerns, but we need to be careful of that. To being like a focus on, like all land acknowledgements, and we have to acknowledge our privilege, and we have to apologize, and we have to be deferential, and we have like somehow again this moralization and this individual psychology rather than any kind of material politics, bread and butter stuff. So
Joanne Reed said
jobs,
best,
housing, healthcare, etc. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't like people hating me, but I rather be like, I can live a lot more with people having bad thoughts about me if you're not like literally one bad event away from happening, from being out in the street and having to deal with all these, all the people who are there out on the street.
Yeah, well, Joanne Reed, remember when she said during I believe it's after the election when Trump got into office, she said that Black people don't want Medicare for all; they want a racial reckoning.
And whatever that would mean, like an apology.
Yeah, like okay, you're gonna say that they're like, this is not gonna help Black people. It's like, well, objectively, Black America having healthcare would help Black America. I mean, how many Black Americans are underinsured, don't have access to quality insurance, and cannot, if they have a heart attack, which you concede, Black America has a whole lot of health programs, but you don't want to give them Medicare for all. And how do you justify it? By saying, hey, it'll benefit white people and it's going to benefit them. You don't want it. You want to get and have grievance politics that's going to get you nothing. You should be happy that there are Black millionaires like LeBron.
Yeah. Wesley Hunt, I think he's another guy from Texas. I don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican. I think he's a Republican representative. And he, again, I don't know if it was last week, but there was some, for those who don't remember, there was this guy named Daniel Penny, and he intervened. There was someone acting menacing and threatening people on the subway in New York, and this guy decided to restrain him, and the man died as a result of him restraining him. And this caused a firestorm about how, about like it was a hate crime, and it became racial, of course, racialized because Daniel Penny is a white guy and the guy who was killed was Black. But it's kind of interesting because when you have people, of course, you're going to make this comparison that, if someone like Daniel Penny had been on that the metro line, who knows, that maybe he probably would, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And this again it's pulls at the heartstrings, it's moralizing, but it is it does make a point between highlighting the differences in the of how the leftists or the progressive left or the left wing of the bourgeoisie, like AOC and all those people, were like were came down like a ton of bricks on Daniel Penny, then are silent so far when something happens and the racial dynamics are reversed.
Because
so,
the only reason they're pushing this is to inflame tension. That's the whole point of this. That's why they everything they do, everything they say only makes the situation worse. None of it makes it better. You won't see them offer any solutions. What is the solution? Well, the solution is capitalizing on the fact that right wingers say this. Like you as a liberal, what's your response to this? The liberals' response is, look at them. They just want the right to kill black people.
Yeah.
That's going to be their response.
This is also like saying that the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, which, of course, in a way is if you have no police, the point is to reduce the situation where you have to rely on a good person with the gun to take out the bad person with the gun.
Yeah, well, I'm pro gun, but I'm not. I'm pro gun. I'm going to be because proletariat should be armed. But
no, I'm not anti Second Amendment, but I'm also like when you get these people that have 50 AK-47s and it's still the answer. If somebody had a gun, the situation wouldn't have happened. Is not the answer because you shouldn't be in the situation to begin with. Yeah. Why do you have violent criminals roaming around your country that can, kill an innocent woman or man just for being in the wrong place? Okay, why is your subway so dangerous that a woman can walk in and get video cammed getting killed by a man, and now everyone's watching her death and just making a mockery of it in their own way? Yeah.
That's the saddest part.
Yeah, Laura Chen chimed in. Poverty does not cause, because again, people want to be wanting to when it suits them, not focus on race, but when it does suit them to focus on race, and you get this thing. It's like, well, are we essentializing? Are you essentializing race? Or are you de-essentializing race? Because they tend to want to have their cake and eat it too. About when to play the race card on either side. But Laura Chen was pushing back against someone who said that nothing will change because the root causes of crime are poverty. You want to stop crime, stop poverty first, and then, basically focusing on that. Okay, and Laura Chen wanted to say, poverty does not cause crime. Poverty does not make you stab an innocent bystander multiple times in the neck. There are Asian countries where people live on dollars a day, and they are still safer than any American city. Stop with these excuses. And she does. This is the thing, is you want to zero in. I'll want to say something about this, and I want to see what you have any response to this argument or this. It is true. The fact is that just like when they want to, just like when someone wants to say, well, mental health, whatever, they be like, okay, yeah, people, obviously, if you do this, you want to say, like, how could you be of a sound mind if you would do something like this? But at the same point, you have lots of people that have mental health problems that don't go around doing this. And it's the same thing about blaming poverty. Now, I don't think we have to say that we should address poverty anyway, regardless. And obviously, if you reduce poverty, you're not gonna get rid of crime. You're gonna reduce a lot of crime. But you do have areas where you have a high level of poverty, but you don't have high levels of violent crime. So that is the case. So you can't generalize that as well. But what do you want to say to Lauren Chen here?
Well, I think poverty. Well, the just blame poverty crowd is taking the easy way out, by saying, well, they are poor, so again, they're naturally going to be angry, violent, and all this stuff. That's not true. The reason why you're going to have poor, crime in poor areas and it's going to be more visible is generally because if you don't have police in that area, criminals learn, I can operate openly and don't have to, worry about things. I can remember, I lived in a poor area. You don't have cops. You got two guys beefing. One dude beats up the other dude. What does he care? No one's going to call the cops. Or if they do call the cops, what's going to be done? Nothing. So,
Well, yeah, and there's a reason why certain activities are located in certain places.
yeah, it comes down to, I will always argue it's partly, even if you up people's, what is it? Even if you up the quality of their lives, people who are in that community who are doing bad things, you're just going to have to deal with those people. You're going to have to, put them in prison because they're not going to change. It's like, that's just the truth. It's it's part cultural issue, part poverty, and it's part, what is it? Well, these own people's alienations. I don't buy completely into the concept that you go and you raise up people's living standards and that's just going to cause so much of such a better society. I mean, you look at Finland, for example. It has poverty, it has crime, and the way it deals with its most violent offenders, it has them constantly cycling in and out of prison because they won't do anything about them. All treatment has to be voluntary. So, if that country cannot deal with its violent criminals and those violent criminals go out of prison, the
recidivism.
Yes, thank you.
Recidivism. It's a hard word.
The recidivism is, well, my mouth is dry too, but the recidivism is high.
Good. Take a drink.
Yeah. the recidivism is really high, and again, the poverty, nothing's being done about these people because in their poverty, the criminal element, the lumpens, can rot. They can be as bad as they want to be because no one's doing anything about them, and no one has any standards for them. And when you take away all of that, I mean, you look at Black America, you look at what has happened to it. I'm willing to bet if you look at the single motherhood, you look at basically how the policies are designed to keep these people from making families, and how for Black America, what's been marketed to them is to embrace the materialism. That's what's eating at them. And I'm willing to bet as America adopts and follows white America, that as they adopt and follow that culture, they too will resemble it. That just hasn't happened because white America still has the benefit of family structure and community, and that is collapsing. So I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it is about just keeping the status quo. Like,
and this is my pitch. This is my pitch to all the young people out there and anybody that families are not. I mean, families, can't live with them, can't live without them. But anybody who's trying to say this abolish the family stuff, that somehow we're better off isolated and atomized and totally dependent on the state and market, is not true. So if you find someone that you groove with, I would say get together sooner rather than later, even if it's really difficult and you have to live at your mom's or your dad's or whatever. I don't know. Bind together in partnerships, and if you want to have kids, try to have them. There's never a great time. I'm just going to end
I
up
think
there.
the oddity
abolish the family is so retarded, and most of the people that push that, if you look at their family structure, they did not come from that. They came from a fairly solid family. So
with that crowd, I would say you look at all of the data, and you'll see that single motherhood produces a lot of problems. Okay, you can see that. And for the people who are sitting there talking about this, you have this greater atomization. And I'll point to the difference in America and Iran. In America, a man is poor, he has nothing. Where is he going to go eat? Where is he going to go sleep? Same with a woman. If they're poor, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? They have to, hope the state gives them welfare. In Iran, a man loses his house, he loses his money. He goes to his family, he sleeps and eats there. Okay, he could just show up. Much different people. They have large families. I can't eat. I'm out of a house. I go live with my uncle. Next day I live with my aunt. Next day I live with my brother. And slowly you get back on your feet. Here, none of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's being argued is atomize, and then you have the left going, why can't we organize? Well, when do atomized individualists ever band together to do anything?
Yeah.
The only ones are bourgeois elites. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's that stuff is that we'll have to have a whole other episode on that. But let's cycle through some more of the how this altercation is being or this tragedy is being framed. So Matt Walsh wrote, "This image provokes deep visceral rage in every father who sees it. I can't even fully articulate it. It's primal. We want scalps. We want heads on pikes." That can't be good. Although, yeah, understandable. David French responds, "Images are powerful. The image of Derek Chauvin kneeling on a dying man, hand in his pocket, seemingly indifferent to George Floyd's life, was beyond enraging. Same with the images here. The murderer's nonchalant, casual cruelty combined with her shock and horror are too much to bear. These images should spur reform. They should galvanize politicians," oh my God, Dave, "to deal with the serial offenders in our midst. There is a need for systemic change." So Matt Walsh responds to him, "David, the image of an innocent young woman bleeding to death after her throat was cut by a 14-time career felon should be significantly more enraging to you than the image of a violent junkie overdosing while resisting arrest." And Common Sense Todd weighs in, "Let's be very clear. If a white man had done that to a young black woman on camera and then walked around saying, 'I got that black girl,' we wouldn't have to force the media to cover it. They wouldn't stop covering it until the whole country was burning." Common Sense Todd is right.
Yeah, he is right. He's 100% right. They would absolutely do that. That's the problem with people arguing with these people, is that they're not wrong. The liberal media would just seize on that all day and talk about it. And it's kind of like, remember the death of David Schaefer? You remember him? This is the white guy who got shot to death by police, and no one really covered it. It was something that was very, it finally people started covering it when there was enough, anger over it, but really only because people were only talking about, black people being shot. So you take, and again, we have a society bringing up identity and trying to suppress class, right? Trying to suppress class politics. So you have them promoting these identities and saying, okay, look how bad the violence against black people is, and then constantly saying how bad white people are. Well, white people are going to respond to that if they're not ideologically aligned with liberalism, with the liberals.
Well, and they'll go and they'll look at the data, which is, again, there can be problems with the data, but if you look at the data, there's more degree that most of the crime is within the same racial group.
Yeah? Absolutely. Yeah. They don't pay attention to that. Yeah.
But that doesn't, like you said, that doesn't get that's not the right narrative. It doesn't touch the right buttons or check the right boxes.
No, it doesn't,
or
because
actually
people don't care.
Bring it up.
Yeah, people don't.
Even if people who and I'm just talking about black and white people, because the incident that spurred this conversation was between a black man and a white woman. But that it's like, even when black people will bring that up, they also, like, Uncle Tom's and you can't do that and this and that. It's like you can only care about black lives if they're being endangered by a white person.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're not caring about the actual group. You only care about it in a way that you can politicize it for your own end. That's the way the liberals look at it. That's the way the conservatives look at it. No one is actually caring. As I said, there's a video of a black woman being gunned down by a black man. And, there's no one sitting there saying, this is intolerable. How could this happen? They're not going crazy about it as they are with this Ukrainian girl. And again, what is the worst thing than to take the picture of this poor woman and show her like this in the last moments, so people can sit there and have their entertainment, because in a way this is also a form of entertainment to people.
Oh yeah.
I don't look at this as like people being like, oh my god. Yeah, people are acting like, oh, I'm so outraged. Sure, that's why you've got a grin on your face. You're so happy. That's how it is. They're happy to see this, and it's terrible. But
and before we get to your comment that we've already touched upon a bit, I thought that these two were the most most irritating, but for different reasons.
Oh God!
So the red-headed libertarian, Iryna Zarutska, bled out, scared and alone, on the dirty public transit floor. No one looked at her. No one helped her. I imagine she cried for her. Oh my God! I imagine she cried for her mom until everything went dark. America doesn't have a crime epidemic driven by. Okay, here we go. America doesn't just have a crime epidemic driven by the Marxist agenda. We have a morality problem. So that's one thing. And I didn't realize that the United States was a Marxist bastion. And my thing on this was that look, I'll read Uncommon Sense and I'll give you my take on this, and then I want to hear what you have to say. Uncommon Sense. This guy is I don't follow him because I don't want people to see that I do, but he's on a list because I have a list of people because I want to see what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And he's on it. Especially if it's smart fascists, smart racists or smart fascists, those we should keep track of. No, we don't have a morality problem. We have a race problem. A country is based on race, a biological blood connection. A multiracial economic halfway house for the whole world is not a country, and naturally it leads to apathy, acts of violence, distrust, and destruction. So my main thing with the redhead libertarian, beyond the editorializing of her, imagining what Iryna's last moments were, I would imagine there's probably just shock, but that somehow that this crime epidemic is a Marxist agenda, as if the United States isn't the hegemonic head of global capitalism and has been since, it's always been capitalist, but, since in earnest since World War II. And then the Uncommon Sense one is that I think he has a point here that, if your country is just an economic halfway house of people who just are kind of living in the same place but don't have a lot of connection to each other and animize, and there's all these identity divisions, that's a bad way that isn't a good recipe to make a flourishing society. But him wanting to essentialize it to some sort of soil and blood, I find problematic. But on the scene, what do you want to say to these people?
He talks about being American, but he doesn't know what it is. America's always been a populous country, a very populous country, and they make the arguments by blood, but what is that blood? Half of the population did not view Irish people as white throughout America's history. They viewed them as a mongrel class of people. So, your definitions of what is blood connection to America differs through the century. So where are we going with that? With her, man.
She's a regular on Timcast, I think. Yeah, the Timcast.
Yeah.
It's a regular on that, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, the whole blood and soil thing you can kind of shit on because, there are nations where everyone is the same ethnic group and it still sucks. And Europe and whatnot can blame its Arab population, Middle Eastern population, but you guys were turning yourselves into neoliberal shitholes and already getting, poverty from 1913 and no, it's 2013 and all that. And then the rot began around there too. So that's all malarkey. Everything to the libertarians is communism if it's government just providing a subsidy. So they become ridiculous. The whole thing, this whole like what she's talking about is the whole nonsense of cultural Marxism, which is that Nazi idea that the left and liberals of America basically jumped on and said, yeah, it's true. It doesn't exist. Cultural Marxism does not exist. What you're seeing is all liberalism in its ugliness. And for some reason in America, Americans are so poorly educated about what ideology their country is and what is the economic system their country is, that they honestly believe everything that's bad is communism and that their country is suffering from communism. And
well, also, I think it's funny. It's also on the side note, like if we take, again, I don't even think North Korea says they're communist. They're still like on the path, or do they think they have attained it? Because I know that with Xi Jinping with China, they're still on that road. Yeah,
everyone is on the path of socialism. They're no longer in communism. No one's in communism.
If we would take that, it's like let's just take China. And I don't want to get into like you know how mixed economy it is, but just like they're ran by the CCP, etc. So they have police, they have law and order. If this happened on, I don't know how likely this would happen on their thing, but they do have crime. But the idea, so this whole connection between kind of like anarcho-liberalism and libertinism, putting that around the neck of Marxism and communism, which has worked out quite well, and the leftists helped them out with that, is a serious problem for people who want to get back on the focus of, look at the imperialism, look at the class issues, this type of thing, not say that we're libertines and any breaking any boundary or queering any norm is just by definition progressive and all this crap. Because it's like, if you would just look at anything they want to challenge that with and look at the party, the country they would associate with communism the most, you don't find that there very much.
The problem with Western, the problem with Western communism is culture. They are culturally it's culture and class. Most of your leftists are within the either bourgeois sphere or you have a form of lumpen in it. That's your two groups that are intermixing. Then you have.
Hey Nassim, if you haven't yet, and I'm sorry if I already asked you this, can you just give a quick definition of what you mean by lumpen?
Lumpen proles are all the people who are either underemployed, unemployed. They're usually the criminal element. They are people like prostitutes, petty criminals. Like that guy who killed that woman would be a lumpen.
Yeah,
he was a career criminal. What is it? The vagrants of the society, homeless,
like the rabble, like Hegel would call the rabble.
Yes, it is very much that, and it's that class of people that these people raise up. But the second problem is that communists even today don't talk about culture. They conceded culture to the liberals and the conservatives, and they act like culture is just like it doesn't mean anything. Well, yes, class is important. It's extremely important. It is the division, but culture is how people get along.
Yeah. And it matters to them, and if it matters to the people, we're about the people, and we are people. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I always thought that was so related. Like, oh, that's just culture. I usually think that's just kind of an excuse, and I'm sure you've had this when you try to engage with people who say they're on the left or who are even Marxists or socialists. When you try to engage them with the gender stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that's just culture war." It's like,
they see that as culture. They don't see it as I remember I was explaining
no
this
capital involved in that. Whatever.
Yeah, anyway, I remember explaining this. You want to build a movement, right? And so who is going to be your revolutionary subject? Well, culture of the people that you are bringing into your movement actually matters, because if you're getting lumpen proles into your movement, you can say goodbye to the masses. They're not going to come to you.
And they tend not to have the best discipline.
Well, no, they don't.
And that can change. I mean, it can change. But
well, Lenin asked this question, and I always say it's answered. The woman question, the Clara Zetkin, talked with Lenin about this, and Lenin was questioning the whole sex theory, saying that he did not think people that were all into these types of stuff and who were promiscuous and all that would make good revolutionaries, because they're ill-disciplined in life. They'll be ill-disciplined in everything they do. And, there's a desperate attempt by leftists to try to dissect these people's lives, to sit there and be like, no, they were just as, degenerate as us. It's like, no, the thing that they're forgetting is that you guys are about the public exalting of your sexual proclivities. There is no discipline amongst you guys. You guys have none. This is why the left can't do anything. The left is the biggest tailless group of liberals. There's nothing. The only thing we can ascribe to the left is they act kind of like the radical feminists are to feminism, where the more powerful groups take their most ridiculous ideas and bring them to the mainstream in order to completely discredit the movements that they are about. Like, you want to talk about, like, the more I look at the woman question of today, I'm sitting here thinking, man, much of the women that are in politics are functionally fascists.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around it. You look at it, like I was looking at the chart where they were saying, where.
Well, you know why that is, don't you, Nassim? That's because of internalized patriarchy.
Oh yeah, of course. It's always got to be internalized patriarchy. In other words, it's never me. Well, that goes back to what is the personal is political. So it's not me.
Okay, but before we wrap up here on this, I do want to see if we got everything, because one of the reasons why I reached out and was like, hey, Nassim, do you want to do a pod with me? Was you posted this. And can you see that or not? Because if not, I can
see it.
Okay, do you want to read your own words, please?
Oh, God. This is how liberals and leftists work together to disrupt class politics. The anti-prison, anti-cop, and pro-criminal justice system weaponizes criminals to terrorize communities and intensify ethnic tensions. White liberal leftists have been advocating for policies that are supposedly for the benefit of minorities. Yep, they do that. But predictably benefit white liberals and leftists exclusively. Yep. These soft on crime policies is the weaponization of the lumpen proles, meant to drive a wedge between whites and blacks, foist the minorities into the left liberal camp out of fear of the conservative backlash, which is what you're saying, and drive up the racism. All to destroy any form of class solidarity, right? We're not talking about class, are we? There's another video of a black woman, that's one I've been talking about, being brutally gunned down in a city street. Is this I don't know. This might have been something else. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, you changed the thing on me, so now
I'm sorry. I thought you'd moved on. Sorry.
Yeah, it was all these deaths, all these terrorist acts by the lumpens are intended consequence of these pro-criminal reforms. It's all true. There's no way around that. They know this because you can see all of these niche ideas that would be laughed at prior to 2012 began to be pushed into the public around the time Bernie Sanders came to power. Or I'm not come to power, but come into the primaries. He came into the mainstream.
He made them nervous. He made some people nervous.
Yes, he made people nervous.
Like, is he going to come around at the end, or is he going to really, go the distance?
But they showed. I mean, this was 2016 is a really good time, the primaries, because it showed how easy it is to dismantle class politics by identity. Because they did that to him, and then instead of keeping his message the next time around, he embraced the identitarian stuff, and his entire movement collapsed. So you see, class-based politics cannot survive with liberal identity.
He was BLM'd, wasn't he, a couple of times? Didn't some BLM ladies come and shout at him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He got shouted at. Liberal identitarian politics just annihilates class.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. It annihilates class. There's no way around it. And that's what they did to him. The question is, was he always a guy who played ball? And the answer is yeah. He's a standard social democrat. He played ball with them. So, in the end, if they're not going to play ball with him, moves on. So we have all these progressive criminal reforms are causing these problems. And who's the people who are enabling it right now? The white liberals. The whole social theory right now that's going on is that the real threat isn't really going to come from your Republicans, even though they're going to do your damage. The real coalition that's coming is this combination of the white liberal and the Richard Spencer types. And I agree with that because already I remember watching Richard Spencer back in 2014, 15.
Is he still a thing, or is kind of Fuentes the new Richard Spencer? I can't.
They're both a problem. Fuentes is like the Catholic one. He's the Protestant. How they gonna, work on that? I have no idea. But the formation seems to be a slow rapprochement of white liberals with the white nationalists. It makes sense. I mean, if you look at the Maidan coalition, it was a very diverse coalition backed up by neo-Nazis. So, this formula has already worked in the past. It worked in Ukraine. It'll most likely work here too. Because as we say, you can pass pro-white reforms under the guise of helping minorities.
Oh, yeah. That's the grift that keeps on grifting. And you mentioned another thing. You said here that all those progressives. I'll let you read your own words.
All the progressive criminal justice policies are coming home to roost. Yes, we're getting that. White liberals literally use criminal justice reforms to terrorize the population with dangerous lumpen polls. That's what they've done.
Yeah.
None of
this
the
is the
reforms.
case that cops say. So this is about somebody who a guy stabbed an elderly couple and set their bodies on fire. And he's a level 3 registered sex offender, the highest risk repeat offender. Currently out on parole, wanted for 2 robberies in Manhattan in July and August 31st. Yeah. So here's the other side of, and I know that you mentioned this, but that it sounds good, especially because you look at if you look at our criminal justice system and you look at the prison, you're like, yeah, that's not good. That seems bad, and for profit and all this stuff. And, the drug war and nonviolent criminals being put away for a long time, etc. Fine. And you think, oh yeah, defund the police or abolish the prisons. And you're like, okay, but if you let people out, unless they are lucky enough to be from a family of means who's going to take their wayward son, sometimes daughter, but usually son, and I don't know, try to keep him in the 3rd floor of their brownstone. These people are going to go to poor and working class neighborhoods. So it's like, thanks. And again, nobody likes, you can have sympathetic stories in the abstract. And of course there can be the lovely homeless drug addict and whatever. And of course there's not always the case that they're drug addicts, but or they were, what, I don't want to get too far in that, but it's like, you're not going to convince somebody that, that homelessness and criminality at a certain point, people are going to be like, I think you don't give a shit about my neighborhood. Or my safety, going just down to the market or whatever.
I mean, they talk about all these people who's doing all these crimes as if they're the true victims.
Yeah.
And, I've always wondered, the same people pushing defund the police and all that also want to arrest people for, financial crimes and all that. They want to talk about enforcing those types of rules and all that. Well, where are you going to put them if you're not going to put them in jail? You want to decriminalize.
Well, and just the rationale that, there are all kinds of factors. Yeah. And our political economy seems designed to create a lot of these problems. However, no matter, you can have a fantastic system, you're still going to have a small percentage of people that it just go sideways. They're just dangerous, just fucked in the head for some reason. And to pretend that's not the case, or that if they have a sad story, somehow that makes it less bad what they did. You know, and you come to the same problem again, that people want to be like, well, abuse and that, like anything that happened in a violent criminal's past has happened to a lot of other people who never went on to commit violent crimes.
I want to say something. We're talking about this, and you're asking. We're talking about how, if you notice, people have an ideology now where they think of the criminal as, you know, he had a bad life. He had a bad, whatever happened to him, it was horrible, right?
And this could have had a very bad life. It's true,
right? You know, I mean, you can see
killing people on the subway, you're not having a good life. Sorry, go ahead.
Pay attention to media, like games and movies and whatnot, and you'll see the same arguments being thrown out. Like, I'll give a great example. I finished up Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk, and the whole story can only justify itself as seeing the antagonist, Songbird, as a victim. She's a character who, you know, you see her life when she was young, and she was, you know, she had a bright future. Then she she got into like the murky underworld, did bad things, got the eye of the government, became a spy, and now she wants out because they're doing bad things to her. And the rationale for why you should help her was because of her past when she was good. But everything she's doing now is absolved. She's killing all these people to free herself. She's causing international incidents. The whole idea of people today is, what I do doesn't matter because my lived experience it absolves
or that of my ancestors.
Yes. Well, my ancestors that were lived bad, or I lived bad. So what I'm doing isn't wrong. I'm just trying to free me. Well, everyone's trying to free themselves, right? In a capitalist society, everyone is looking to free themselves through money, you know, to get out of the rat race. And so you can justify anything.
So you retweeted this meme, and I think this is a good place to wrap up our talk of Iryna Zarutska and the collapse of bourgeois politics in the States.
Yes, online. We literally have it that much of the right wing is Indians and much of the left wing is white people pretending to be minorities. It's just the funniest fucking thing. Hey, how do you get there? Because white people see being a minority as being a victim group that gives them prestige, while the right wing, well, they just like the idea of being white and see it as being better than what they are, or just liking to cause problems. That's the two, and it's just so funny. I've been saying for a while, the ideal, if you track the right wing right now, much of your ideological leaders posting all this Wignat stuff are Hindu nationalist things. It's like, my God, you know, we go to the top of the Nazis and we find out they're all Hindus. Where are we going next? It's just,
no, and it's kind of, and I feel bad, and if this might be racist, but what can you do? Is I remember, like I used to when some, because every once in a while you catch somebody online and you're just like, they're just like just the most stupid Hasbro, just the stupidest crap about Israel and Gaza, and at some point I would be like, you know, tell me without telling me that you're texting us from a dusky office on the outskirts of Ashkelon. Yeah, you know.
Yes.
Like, and then I started to add, because I realized how many. And then I started to add later on, like either you're typing this from Ashkelon or from outside Bangalore. You know,
yeah,
like,
and all you have to do is go and search.
And to be fair to the outside Bangalore, they could just be doing this as their job. Yeah, they just get paid to do this stuff. Or there are some Hindu nationalists who seem to be really, you know, they really like Israel for obvious reasons, because they want their country to be a Hindu nationalist or Hindu supremacist country as well. So
absolutely. But here's the thing: we know with Israel that they employ a massive troll army.
Yeah.
Massive. But we also know that when we're dealing with white supremacists online, the best thing to do is go and search their Twitter history, because if they start talking about India and they start talking about Pakistan, there you go, you got yourself an Indian. And it always is the case. Like, here, it would be so funny. Here's
and I just want everyone to know this is Nassim saying this. It's not me. I'm not making this judgment about 1.2 billion people.
I am,
or whatever.
Absolutely, be angry. I don't care.
But but these generalizations come from somewhere. So
they do. But here's the thing,
guys who are doing the bots, don't take it up with Nassim.
Yeah, here's the thing with India and all that. It's a large country. It's got a lot of people getting on the internet, and they seem to like to troll people. So I take it as like a half and half. Some of those people are probably really like they believe what they're saying, and some of those people are just trying to bait and troll people for their own enjoyment. It's one of them.
Or they have a call center job, and they got this contract. All right, so thank you. What's your time like and your energy like, Nassim? We haven't talked about Qatar at all.
Okay, I could definitely do this.
Okay, so why don't we take like a 5-10 minute break, and then we'll come back and do like 30 minutes on Qatar?
Honestly, I'd rather just pound it out now.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So everybody, we're going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about what I call the Imperial Triangle, US, Israel, and the Gulf states. Please do like and subscribe. What are we on now? YouTube, Rumble, X, and Substack if it's going right. But I'm on the program I have now. I can only see the comments that are coming on YouTube. So if you're in a different platform, whatever the word is, and you're typing a comment, I won't see it until later. I'm not ignoring you. All right, so this is a picture of Trump with the head of Qatar, I think. Is he like the crown prince or something, or the king?
Let me see a second. That's Al Thani. That's the Emir of Qatar. Yeah, and that's Al Thani. We have a lot of things to say about him, but I'll keep the.
And I'm glad you're here, because you'll get the pronunciation right. Because I'll be like Qatar, and
yeah.
So I'll go through the facts of the matter, and then I will I'll ask you to well, maybe we can do both. So if you want to first, if you could just kind of just say basically what happened. So what
happened is simple. There's been negotiations between Israel, United States, and Hamas, and what it seems like is that United States and Israel used the negotiations to lure out the Hamas negotiators and try to kill them, in a bombing that was unsuccessful. And many of us do not buy the Qatari excuse that they did not know. No, they know. They're not going to allow this. They have their own. As one of my brothers was sitting there talking about, the Air Force was not patrolling. No one was doing anything. Everything was just ripe for the bombing. Okay, if anything, it might be that someone in Qatar may have told the Hamas guys that they're going to bomb you. Ruslan is a good guy.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to read it, or do you want to read
it? Let's see. Let me actually just let me go through. I'm trying to remember what I brought up here. So there again, isn't it? I mean, it's like, how many times does the U.S. and Israel have to do this before these people realize that they can't be trusted, or they just have to do these negotiations no matter what?
Well,
is anybody really surprised that Israel got the wink from the U.S. and went and tried to do this?
No, I don't think anyone. No, if you talk to Arabs, like the population wise, not a single one of them is going to be surprised. Everyone's going to be like, "Yeah, what do you expect? They're dogs." But when you sit there and you talk to like let's
back up a bit because some people might not know. So there's the Gulf states.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they tend to be oil rich. So if you could tell us a bit about the Gulf states, how these monarchies came to be, these recent monarchies came to be established, and why there's some sort of imperial triangle going on between them and Israel.
So
people who don't know.
All of the Gulf monarchies were created back in the 1900s, back when after World War One, when the British and whatnot were slowly parsing and breaking up the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Empire. But they're breaking up the Ottoman Empire. They're creating what the Arabs used to call as the joke states. Iraq.
States. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we used to call them, the joke states, because you look at them, their territories don't make sense, especially like Iraq and whatnot, and Syria, where they're literally designed so that they'll be fighting over like who owns what and all that, like access. You design these states not to be functional, but the next step was every single one of them was created as having a monarchy. Okay. And the monarchs, they all have been loyal from the get-go to the West, because the West put them in power. It was Britain, France that gave them the power. Then it was the the Americans that stepped in afterwards, because once after World War II, you started having the rise of Pan-Arabism, and you had what was the socialist wave, where the Baathists came into power and started arguing for a one continuous state. So that had of course, who's going to be against that? The monarchs, because they know that they're going to get thrown out. So what happens here is that Israel kind of becomes the greatest friend of the monarchs that they could have, because it's the Baathist states, the socialist states, that are largely anti-Israel. The Lebanese were as well back when they were Christian. That's why it's always funny when people sit there and talk about Lebanon and all that. But when it was a Christian country, it was against the foundation of Israel. Okay. But anyway, the monarchs have always had underdealings and backdoor dealings and all that with the Israelis. And moving to a head, the monarchs, after back in 2016, they finally decided, let's get rid of this. It seems that the Palestinians are defeated. Nothing's going to happen. We'll have the Abraham Accords. Okay. Because at this point, they're looking at the Iraqis, the Ba'athist Party in Iraq are gone. The Egyptians, well, they're literally ruled by a military junta. There's no real Arab force for Palestine. None. Yemen
I want to ask you, does the Shia Sunni thing play in at all with that? Because
it used to not, but it has slowly. See what's now you're asking.
Iran is mainly Shia, yeah, and Hamas I think is mainly kind of Sunni, but they.
But right? That doesn't matter, no. But see,
but I'm just saying is that I know that this is kind of I don't know, but I know enough to know that I'm sure that division was flamed, cynically. And I was just trying to think that there is that division, but you do have, because for example, with Iran and Palestine, obviously probably doesn't do as much as a lot of people would want to, but it seems that religious difference doesn't shadow everything between those groups,
it doesn't. There's more unity about this in the 90s and early 2000s. Now there is this attempt to break the whole Shia Sunni for, to bring up, though, the Iranians can't be trusted. They're Shia. That's coming from the Wahhabi and Salafis that are being, pushed into the Sunni teachings. This group is causing problems, but for the most part, no, it has never been a Sunni Shia conflict. It has always been both Shia, Sunni, see the Palestinian issue the same way. Even the Sufis as well. Every group in the Islamic fold sees the issue the same, except the Salafis and the Wahhabis.
And what I'd like to ask you, because you know a lot more about this than I do, is that you hear this stuff, and I remember when October 7th happened, and when everybody was, because I don't want to get back into my past too much, but I did spend 2 years in Gaza, 2002, 2004. And so that was when I started to, learn quite a bit and focus on, always keep tabs on this situation as best I could.
You got to see the hellhole from
oh, yes. Yeah. But, and I remember there was this thing that during the Second Intifada that there was, especially because I was a teacher there, that the younger kids, or the teenagers, that they knew that that it was going to happen, like there was going to be this Arab street uprising, and there was going to be some sort of shift. And so I lived through that before, or vicariously. Obviously, it didn't affect me like it affected them. And so when I was on these chats, I don't know if you were as well, these spaces, and everyone was just like so convinced, it's like, look, this is what's going to happen. Hezbollah is going to come in from this, and Hamas is going to do this, and then Iran's going to come in from this, and then the Arab street is going to rise up in Jordan and Egypt, and it's going to flood Israel, and then this is going to be done like this. And I was thinking,
yeah, they're living in fantasy land.
I was like, and I don't know. So my question with that long introduction is there even such a thing as the quote unquote Arab street? And people must know that these joke countries or these regimes are lying to them. So they say one thing to them and are doing something else with Israel and the United States. But the wheel can start turning, to use a Game of Thrones metaphor.
Yeah. So to make it easy, the same situation you have in mobilizing your people, deal with your government, is the same situation that they have. Okay, everyone wants to believe that they are part of a group that's super active and is on the cusp of winning the conflict. That is not the case. That's not.
Or the mystical they. Yeah, they're gonna do this, or they are.
Or there's that mystical other. That mystical other that was going to just come and win the battle.
Street is going to. Not our Arab street, but that Arab street.
Yeah. And I think that, but see, here's the thing. You also have, with the Palestinian issue, you have a lot of hope. And this hope was that these groups would live up to their word. And, I've said from the beginning, Iran's support of Hezbollah and Hamas comes out of one group's viewpoint that they need this to stave off their own attacks on them. Okay, these proxies were themselves a hedge on these groups, saying if these groups survive, if these groups exist, Israel will be dealing with them. They won't come and deal with us. But the problem with Iran is that Iran is two-faced in this. It has one group that is willing to fight on this issue, and then another group that wants nothing of it, wants to be, this group would be fine living as pets for white people. And I'm not joking. I'm being that mean because I have no respect for them. They do. And I can say this because my background, half my family is Iranian. We're Iranian Arabs. We are the ones that are on the edge of the Iraq-Iran borders.
Oh, I apologize. I should have put a map. I should have put a map up, but next time I'll have a map ready.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Half the people wouldn't even be able to read it. So the issue. This is just the Iranians have a problem, and they even have a word for it, where it basically translates into Western intoxication. Essentially, like how, I don't know if you know, I am Douglas Kim. I'm gonna shout him out. He talks a lot about what they call the WMAF mind virus, the white male Asian female mind virus, which is about how Asian women like hate their own culture. Well, you have that in Iran. You have that in Iran, where you have a large liberal population that literally
cosmopolitan. They want to be part of the global community, and
they want to be white people. And I mean it. They dye their hair blonde. They will. They get their pictures done, and they have their features photoshopped.
Is there whitening cream in Iran and Iran?
I will say this.
I just remember seeing that all over Asia, whitening cream, and I was like, oh.
My cousin, they dyed their hair blonde, and when I saw them, I made the remark, "Oh, I guess we want to be blonde white women today, don't we?" And they were just like, "Oh, yeah. What do you have to say? Nothing. You have some pride in what you are." And that's the problem, is that these people don't. So you have this issue, and it's predictable. Once Israel came a knocking, Iran backed off. That's what happened. Iran backed off. Hezbollah didn't really want to pull the trigger. Nasrallah didn't want to pull the trigger, because they all got into the problem of, hey, this will be a real war. And if there's a real war, it's not just going to be between them and Israel. America's going to come in. So that kind of causes them all to sit there and try to rethink. The only one that honestly stood their ground and said, no, we'll do everything we can, was Yemen.
That's right. All the Yemenis.
Yeah, I keep saying, if Yemen had a border with Israel, we wouldn't have this, because that population would literally just die to end this issue. They just not even a thought about this. Just the men are built differently there, and versus with the rest of the world. I mean, the Arab world. What can you say about them? You have to not know about the Arab history. All the socialists have been either killed. Or in the process of being killed in Syria. The Communist Party was wiped out in Iraq. There is whatever exists in the Arab world, it's conservative or it's liberal. There is no like real leftist, except maybe the Syrian Socialist Party, which, I mean, again, those groups are small, and what can they do?
Just interject you for a moment. That's why whenever the US or the other the UK or the EU are talking about democracy and liberal spreading democracy and the democratization in the Middle East, it's so ridiculous, because if you look at who they support the opposite. They like these monarchies. They like the people who can be like, look, we'll give you a good deal. You get a cut of them. You get a good deal on the because of the oil and whatnot, and we'll protect you from your people. And you just kind of look the other. You can say some shit about Zionism or whatever, but when push comes to shove, you let us go through your airspace. You give us information, wink, wink, and we'll keep you. We'll back you up. We'll make sure you're not cooed or something.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain are two examples of this. Saudi Arabia had a rebellion back in like the 70s or 80s, and the response to it was, not only did their own forces go to deal with this, but the French sent in special forces. Supposedly they converted. Yeah, whatever. That's nonsense. But anyway, they sent in these forces to kill this rebellion. It doesn't matter if this rebellion was a bunch of hardcore Wahhabis. It still was a rebellion. And what happened? A foreign country sends in its forces to maintain and prop up the monarchy. Then you look at Bahrain. Bahrain, back in 2012, it's like 2012, 2013. You had, and 2014, you had the whole Bahrain Middle East issue. I might be off on my timeline, but it's still, and you look it up. you had Saudi Arabia had to go in because Bahrain is a country where all your police are like Pakistani and Bangladeshi. The Khalifa
Even the
family,
police.
yes, because the
Oh, okay.
Khalifa family does not see the Sunnis as a trustworthy population because they intermarry with the Shia.
Okay.
And the Khalifa family, the hardcore Wahhabi family, and so they're an offshoot of the Saudis, of the Saudi family. So they're not even from there. They are just, here you go. Here's a country for you. And so they basically bar much of their population from any government jobs and fill them with foreigners. So like anyone want to sit there and talk about like what an actual society looks like if your government hates your people? Yeah, you wouldn't even be allowed to be in your own government. They would get people from afar to be in your government so they can easily shoot and kill you. But anyway, they were dealing with these rebellions, and they became known as the rooftop rebellions because the people were on the roof screaming their problems, and they eventually brought in the Saudis to beat the shit out of their people and tell them, shut up. So, I mean, and this is the home of one of America's fleets. What did America do? Oh, we don't see anything. Yeah, that's some tough shit, but I guess those Bahraini people learned their lesson. Who gives a fuck about Bahrainis, right?
Yeah.
Their aspirations, who gives a shit? So,
and again, to go back to the Qatar thing, again, you have this, and I don't know why it still surprises me, because it's like, I wonder why the people, the politicians and the pundits, why they even bother telling us anything anymore if they're just going to lie and lie so obviously,
you
So
go
course,
through the motions.
So Keir Starmer comes out and he condemns Israeli strike on Doha, and of course Qatar, probably, and I'm sure most of the Gulf states have come out and said, like, everyone's coming out and saying, oh, this is a bad thing, it's an escalation. And then someone who's been tracking them, Ben, is like, you literally sent the RAF, the Royal Air Force, to refuel the Israeli fighter jets that bombed Qatar, mate.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's like everyone's just lying, and we just like pretend, I don't know, like, they're lying, we know they're lying, they know that we know that they're lying, but yet they keep on lying, and we keep on. I mean, I don't know where this ends, but it's not just the Qatari government or the Gulf states. It's like across the board, just this unrelenting bullshit.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, this is what do you think the GWAT was for? The whole global war on terror shaped the Middle East into what it is now. The one thing that we had was Iran, and it had an influence in Iraq, but Iran is not willing to fight American people's battle. Is the way I put it.
Dude, then they signed something with the International Atomic Agency again after those fuckers spied on them.
Yeah, again, the reformists.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry for cussing, but I mean, I'm not the one that has to, cash the checks that Iran writes. But I was just like, all right.
Look, that regime, the reformists.
Like, you need to get a weapon. You need to get a nuclear weapon like 5 years ago. I mean, build that thing.
No, see, what I think the Western people have a problem understanding is that a lot of people outside of your borders don't understand how Americans think. So they think that you can capitulate and work with them, show, hey, I'm willing to work, willing to compromise. They don't understand that to Americans, especially American imperialists, you wanting to work with them just shows your weakness. Yeah, and so it emboldens them to push.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we can always be wishful. There's always cognitive dissidence and, ideology and all that and fantasy. But it's like, Libya, Syria. I mean, and they tell you all the time. And like, Trump is just basically, he'll say whatever he wants to say at the moment. Okay.
You got to talk to liberals in these countries.
Yeah,
he will
but then
blow
you
your
have
mind.
even like, do you know that quote from what's that guy? Oh crap. He was the Jew. He was, oh my God.
Is it Eli Cohen that you're talking about?
He was like for Nixon. He was like the Secretary of State. He's that short Jewish guy.
Henry Kissinger?
Oh, Kissinger, yeah. I mean, they said like, America doesn't have friends and enemies. It has interests, and those change. So
yeah, well,
you're
unfortunately,
ISIS one day, and you're the great leader of Syria or part of it, or you're like the guy who gets to be in charge of Syria and kill people while we sell it off or something.
I'm going to say it
I
like
don't
this.
know.
Unfortunately, people outside the borders with like your liberal population, they kind of act like that, like a person who just got with someone with a career history of serial, like, serial womanizing. This individual, he constantly cheats on their every partner he
But
has.
not
But don't
me.
worry,
I'm different.
but not you. I'm different. That's how they think. That's how they think. It's just how it is. You can sit here and show, well, look what they did in Libya. Look at it. Gaddafi was a problem. He didn't play ball. Blah, blah, blah. You know the game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? You just need to learn firsthand. I'm of the, like, I'm negative when it comes to the whole, like, Palestinian conflict. I expect a successful genocide. I'll state that right now.
Well, it's already been. I mean, it's already been one, really. I mean,
yeah,
you can't. How are you gonna? You can't. I mean,
all I'm looking for is how much people is left.
80% destroyed.
Yeah, the 60,000 death is bullshit. It's at least 500,000 to near 1 million. You can't bomb these people so much and all that, and then be like, well, only so little have died. Bullshit.
Well, yeah, and the food and the water and the medicine and all that. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm also like.
And once they're done with Gaza, West Bank is next. So,
Well, and then I think, Greater Israel is in play. They have not backed down from that.
That's going to be where things get interesting, because then they've got to go and mess with American allies. And that's going to be I can see them slowly eating into Syria. They'll be completely allowed to do that. When they start going into, and if they try to go into Saudi Arabia and Jordan, that's when you get a problem where the monarchs have to see that their heads are now on the chopping block too. No, they'll see that. That's one thing.
Maybe all of a sudden Israel will maybe Netanyahu is the guy that has to do all the really, really dirty work, his regime and this generation, and then someone else will come be like, look, we're gonna have our niche, like our core Israel, and that's all us, baby. But you can be part of Greater Israel.
No, those monarchs want to hold their power. They're not going to allow that.
They need their caucuses or whatever.
See, what I'm always surprised of is that Saudi Arabia
there's not enough Jews to populate Greater Israel.
No, there's not. But here's what I'm always surprised about is that Saudi Arabia should technically be the crown jewel of America's foreign policy. Like, when you look at the relations of United States and the Middle East, what nation is like the linchpin to America's dollar hegemony? It's Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
It's them. And that's the one thing I think they will be able to play throughout if Israel comes at them as well. United States, you do this, and we'll just back China. Because
but then they could the United States could take over Saudi Arabia a lot easier than they could Iraq.
Well,
they failed. I'm just speaking out my butt here, but I would think compared to if all the regimes, it would be easy to kick out. I'm assuming these monarchies would be some of the easier ones.
Not necessarily. By now, they're really because Kuwait, for example, how are you going to throw out the Emir of Kuwait or the Princess of Kuwait? They buy their people. The real, if you want to get capitalism to work, if the Western elites followed their model, no one here would be complaining, because they subsidize their people. These are all finance countries. Okay. Yes, they have oil, but they work by also stealing the capital of everyone else in the area. So their whole thing is they're not in any threat because the Arab leaders have bought them. UAE, Qatar, what is it? Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's only real weakness is the Shia population. and they oppress them. That's the real issue. The rest of them basically just are bored. Yeah, they might say they're unhappy and whatnot, but most of them, their people in those countries are defeated. The Saudi Arabians are the princes, though. These are the thing that I have to press upon people is the monarchs are very mercenary in their mentality. Okay, once they realize that they don't get anything out of it, they are going to be those people who they're your friend today, but tomorrow they're the ones flipping you off, asking you what are you going to do about it. And you can kind of see that where they don't join in on like the anti-China. They are balancing their relations, right? They give America everything it wants with Israel because America's going to reward them for that. But they'll give China and Russia whatever they want as long as they think these people can protect them when this happens. You see Greater Israel, you'll start to see some problems. Whether it is what people wish it will be, it won't. It will not be at all. It isn't even a question. As I say, it won't be. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that the monarchs are this mercenary force that will give the West anything they want right now. And yeah, as Zhao Zhushai says, imagine bribing Trump with $400 million luxury Boeing 747 just to get bombed months later by his handlers. Yeah. He's absolutely right. But he doesn't.
And they'll be like, "What are you going to do about it?"
Right. But see, the Emir doesn't have to worry.
What's this giving me a used plane?
Yeah, but the thing he has to remember is the Emir doesn't have to worry about his population. The average Qatari makes over $100,000 a year because that's a slave state, and it brings in a whole bunch of labor from India, Pakistan, all that to do free labor for them, essentially. So, Philippine handmaidens, for God's sakes. The population ain't gonna care. Oh, you bombed the Hamas. That's so terrible. We bleed for them. How could this happen? Okay, what's my monthly stipend? Oh, I'm getting off of work around 2:00. Fuck all y'all. I mean, great. I mean, you talk about people with some benefits. They live better than any American. And whatever thing you can think about them, they can sit there and be like, you're poor. Shut up and leave me alone.
Yeah. No, well, now they're having the Riyadh Comedy Festival. That's not in Qatar, of course, but
no,
that was hilarious. I was like, I'm just curious I mean, I'm not gonna. People are upset, and I get that, but I'm like, they're comedians who are being paid to go and do an act at a comedy festival. But I'm curious what their acts will be and who the audience will be.
Oh, they will be sanitized. They will do nothing controversial or say anything bad about the monarchy. They will talk about America and Israel. The comedy will all talk about how horrible Israel is and all that. Saudi Arabia is liberalizing. Remember the fact that was it Netflix? There was going to be
that Crown Prince. He must like his Netflix and chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, why don't we have a comedy festival? I want to get these guys. And all of them are going. Yeah, Chappelle, Hart, Louis C.K. There's also a couple of gay. There's also a couple of not that matters. I mean, just because of the thing about if you're gay in these countries, they'll throw you off a building. That kind of story that goes around. But a couple of women, a couple of gay guys,
well, I mean, there's videos.
Yeah, I mean, big names. Bill Burr. Yeah, they're Joy Coy. Lots of people, big names.
People's idea of Saudi Arabia is not what it is today, because there are many videos that we sit and mock of Saudis sitting there at their fake bars drinking non-alcoholic beer like a bunch of dumbass.
There's partying going on there. Yeah.
Oh man, Saudis. Saudi Arabians, they come to America. The men come to America, and even the women. They come to America. What's the first thing they do? They drink. Yeah. They drink. They party. They are the biggest bunch of degenerates you ever meet, and then they go back to Saudi Arabia as pious little boys and girls. Bunch of pieces of shit.
Anyway, we'll wrap up. I know that you liked brutal truth bombs. You want to read this for us?
The Qatari regime are the dogs of American international capital, and Qatar is an American outpost in the Persian Gulf. There's no reason why Israel would do this on their own without their approval. Absolutely right. There's no region on the world as evil as the Gulf kingdoms. They're Israel's greatest blessing, far more evil than Israel. Unlike Israel, these parasite American statelet outposts suck the Middle East dry of its national capital and have thoroughly rotted the minds of Sunni world through Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya, convincing them their kingdoms are good. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman are each and every single one dogs, some more so than others. But anyhow, he's absolutely right. That's what I was talking about.
Because a lot of the capital, in terms of what you mean by the national capital, is that there's, in addition to the petrodollar, or the backing of the US dollar, petrodollar, with the petrodollar, a lot of their money they invest all around the world, in the city of London and Wall Street. That money is circulating around and not really circulating within the local economies there. And again, like you mentioned, that some of these real oil states, there's certain upper, I don't know, I guess in Saudi would be there's certain ethnic groups that get the stipend and live high off the hog. And then I know that I've heard that like manual labor is almost unheard of. That they have to bring in people to do all the manual labor and domestic labor.
So these countries actually achieve bourgeois socialism, whereas the West is still suffering with it. Because seriously, they might be monarchies, but they have the vision of what we talk about. They are societies with very little labor. All of it is the intellectual capital, all that shit. That's what they've been moving towards. You go and look at Qatar. You look at
all they
Kuwait.
do is build all these hotels and inside ski resorts and stuff.
Service jobs. They use the oil funds. They do use those oil funds to service their economy. But it is the productive labor is being used to enrich the service side. That's all of the Qatari and all the monarch economies. They're financialized, and they've been financializing and whatnot. So this is the world that many of the DSA and all that want. They just don't want the monarchy part. They want a president. Well, you can get that. You just rename the dude. Hey, you're a president. Okay, I'm not near me anymore. There you go. Yeah. They can have elections. They'll have elections with each other. Oh, now my brother, he's going to be the new king. After he dies, his brother will be that new president. I'm sorry, president. Yeah, president. That's right.
Oh, goodness. Well, Nassim, thank you very much. This has been good and very informative. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
No
pressure. I hope it has, you say like keep up alive and
no. I hope this has been good because I haven't been very technical. I could be more technical and I wasn't, and I've just kind of gabbed in my own way. So I hope it's not bad.
It's good because there's always follow up, and maybe next time you get your camera in order. Although this wasn't bad because on my side, when you talk, it kind of vibrates a bit. So.
I have a better camera, but it's not. It's upstairs, and unfortunately,
this worked out fine. But it's just nice, I think. Unless someone's under witness protection or doesn't want to get fired from their job for.
No, if you decide you want me to be on next time, I'll make sure I have my camera up and ready.
See that morbid symptoms crowd? I'm lining up. I shouldn't. The word stable came in my mind. I shouldn't say that.
Oh no, I might be a stable guest.
Co-host.
A reoccurring cancer. That's what I am. I've metastasized.
It's just like, co-host, special guest. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll definitely do this again. We'll definitely do this again.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much. Bye.
Nassim. Okay. I'll see you next time. Bye. All right, that was Nassim. Oh, what is it? Oh, 2 hours and a half. That's good. All right, so this has been Morbid Symptoms, and I'm your host, Tara Van Dyke, and that was Nassim. And we first talked about the Iryna Zarutska, sorry, Iryna, Zarutska case and the collapse of bourgeois politics in the States. That tragic case of, I don't know if she was 19 or 20, that was just randomly stabbed to death by someone on the train, and it's crazy. Anyway, and then we also talked about the Imperial Triangle, US, Israel, and the Gulf states. And Nassim gave us a lot of information about the Gulf states and why in the region they're locally called joke states and dogs and this type of thing, and fairly mercenary. And if we're looking for them to be any kind of bulwark against imperialism in West Asia, we best adjust our thinking for that. We have to disabuse ourselves of that notion. Anyway, please do like and subscribe. Again, I can only, when I'm streaming right now, I can only see comments on YouTube. So if people have said something to us on Rumble or Substack or X, I will look at those later. If you'd like to come on the show, let me know. If you have an idea for a topic, interview, book review, whatever, let me know. My plan is to focus on this as much as I can. All right, so I'm going to do the outro, and it gives you information about where you can follow and subscribe. I also try to write one article a week on Substack. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. But yeah, everyone take care, keep hope alive, and, workers of the world unite, all that good stuff. See you later.